Commander Zexhai pressed his crystalline hand against the cold metal of the ship's window. Outside, the red giant star cast an angry glow across space. This was Sol, the ancient home system of humans. The star was dying, just like the old records said. "Are you getting readings from the third planet?" Zexhai asked his science officer. Dr. Melkara looked up from her scanner. Her blue skin rippled with concern. "Yes, Commander. The planet they called Earth is still there, but it's frozen solid. The surface temperature is minus 200 degrees. Zexhai nodded. Every school child in the galaxy knew this story. 50,000 years ago, humans lived on a blue and green world orbiting a yellow star. When their sun started to die, they tried to escape. But they failed. Their technology was too simple. They all died when their world froze. "Take us closer," Zexhai ordered. "The Confederation wants a full survey of this dead system." Their ship, the Bright Wing, moved toward Earth. As they got closer, the frozen planet looked like a white and gray ball. "No lights, no signals. No life. I'm seeing ruins on the surface," Melkara reported. "Large cities. They match the historical records about human settlements." Zexhai had seen pictures of humans in the Confederation museums. They were strange creatures. Only 2 arms and 2 legs. Soft skin instead of scales or crystal. Hair growing from their heads. They lived such short lives, barely 100 years. No wonder they couldn't survive when their star changed. "Commander," called Pilot Vecton from the front of the ship, "I'm getting some odd readings from the other planets in this system." "What kind of readings?" "Energy signatures. Very faint. And there's something strange about the gravitational fields near the gas giants." Zexhai walked to the pilot station. Vectan was young for a Threnody, his crystal body still clear instead of the cloudy amber that came with age. "Show me." The display lit up with a map of the Sol system. Earth was the third planet from the dying star, but farther out were much larger planets made of gas and ice. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. The record said humans had sent small machines to these worlds but never built anything important there. "The readings are coming from around Jupiter," Vectan said. "Behind it where we can't see." "Probably old human junk," Zexhai said. "Broken machines still giving off power signals. Take us to Earth first. We'll check the gas giants later." Their ship entered Earth's atmosphere. The air was thin and poisonous now. Through the windows they could see the remains of huge cities. Tall buildings reached toward the gray sky like broken fingers. Streets were buried under ice and snow. "Landing near what used to be called New York," Melkara announced. "The ruins are well preserved in the cold." They put on their environment suits and stepped outside. The wind howled across the frozen landscape. Ice covered everything, but underneath they could see the shapes of human civilization. Roads, buildings, vehicles. "Look at this," Melkara said, kneeling beside a strange object. "It's some kind of monument. There are symbols carved into it." Zexhai looked at the writing. Ancient English, according to his translator. "Here lies the cradle of humanity. We go now to the stars, but we will never forget home." "Sad," Vecton said through the radio. They knew they were leaving forever. They spent hours exploring the frozen city. They found more monuments, museums full of human art and history, libraries with millions of books turned to ice. Everything told the same story. Humans knew their sun was dying. They built great ships to carry them to other stars. But something went wrong. "Commander," Melkara called from inside what used to be a human building. "You need to see this." Zexhai found her standing in front of a massive wall covered in star maps. "What am I looking at?" "These aren't maps of where humans wanted to go," she said. "These are maps of where they could go. Look at the calculations. They had figured out how to travel between stars. Their technology was more advanced than the historical records show. That's impossible. If they could travel to other stars, why did they all die here? I don't know. But Commander, these maps show detailed knowledge of hundreds of star systems, including systems that weren't discovered by the Confederation until thousands of years later." A chill ran through Zexhai's crystal body. It wasn't from the cold. "Are you saying the historical records are wrong?" "I'm saying maybe humans didn't die the way we think they did." They returned to their ship as the dim red sun set behind the frozen horizon. The Bright Wing lifted off from Earth and headed toward the outer planets. Zexhai couldn't stop thinking about those star maps. How could humans have known so much about the galaxy? "Commander," Vecton called from the pilot station. "We're approaching Jupiter. And sir, you're going to want to see this." Zexai hurried to the front of the ship. Through the window he could see Jupiter's massive form. The gas giant was brown and orange with swirling storms. But there was something else. Something that shouldn't be there. Are those structures? He asked. Floating in space around Jupiter were huge objects. They were dark and hard to see against the black of space. But they were definitely artificial. Geometric shapes that nature could never create. They're big, Commander, Vecton said, his voice shaking. Really big. Each one is the size of a moon. How many? I count 200. Maybe more. They're spread throughout the Jupiter system. Melkara was running scans from her station. Commander, these aren't ruins. They're active. I'm reading power sources, life support systems, and, oh no, what? Life signs. Billions of them. These structures are inhabited. Zexai felt his crystal body grow cold. That's impossible. Humans went extinct 50,000 years ago. Then who built these? Melkara asked. Before anyone could answer, every alarm on the ship started screaming. The display screens lit up with warnings. Something was moving behind Jupiter. Something massive. Commander, Vectan shouted. Ships, huge ships. They're coming around Jupiter. Through the window, Zexai watched in horror as enormous vessels emerged from behind the gas giant. They were sleek and organic looking, like living things instead of machines. Each one was easily 10 times the size of the largest Confederation battleship. How many? Zexai whispered. Hundreds, Vectan replied. And they're all heading straight for us. The ships moved with impossible grace for their size. They didn't look like any technology Zexai had ever seen. Their hulls seemed to pulse with inner light. Strange energy fields surrounded them. Commander, Melkara said quietly, I'm reading the design patterns on those ships. They match ancient human architecture. The same styles we saw in the ruins on Earth. Zexai stared at the approaching fleet. Each ship was like a floating city. But who was flying them? Humans were extinct. Everyone knew that. The historical records were clear. But as the massive vessels drew closer, one thing became terrifyingly obvious. Someone had been living in the Sol system for the past 50,000 years. Someone had been building. Someone had been waiting. And now they were awake. The massive ships continued to approach the bright wing. Zexai watched them through the window, his crystal body trembling. Each vessel was like a small moon, covered in smooth metal that seemed to flow like liquid. Strange lights pulsed along their hulls in patterns he had never seen before. Try to contact them, Zexai ordered. Melkara worked frantically at her communication station. I'm sending standard Confederation greeting signals on all frequencies. Nothing, I'm trying trade languages. Still nothing. What about ancient human languages? I don't know any ancient human languages, Commander. Vectan looked up from his pilot controls. Should I prepare to run? Zexai thought about it. Their ship was fast, but these vessels were enormous. If they wanted to destroy the Bright Wing, they probably could. Not yet. Keep us steady. Maybe they're just curious. More ships kept coming around Jupiter. Zexai counted at least 300 now. Each one was different, but they all had the same flowing design. They moved through space like fish swimming through water. Commander, Melkara said, her voice excited. I'm getting detailed scans of these ships now. The technology? It's incredible. They're not using normal engines. They're somehow bending space around themselves. That's impossible. Only the most advanced Confederation races can do that, and even then just barely. These ships are doing it easily. And Commander, there's something else. I'm reading massive life support systems inside each vessel. These aren't just ships. They're homes. Each one could hold billions of people. Zexai stared at the approaching fleet. Billions. That's more people than live on most planets. And they're all coming from the Jupiter system. Commander, what if the humans didn't die out? What if they just hid? Before Zexai could answer, every screen on the ship went white. A sound filled the air, low and powerful. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. Then suddenly, silence. Words appeared on their main screen, written in ancient English letters that Zexai's translator slowly converted. We felt you disturb our rest. State your purpose in our birthplace. Zexai looked at his crew. Someone respond. Tell them we're explorers from the Galactic Confederation. Melkara typed quickly on her keyboard. How should I send it? The same way they contacted us. If they can override our systems, they can read our responses. She typed. We are peaceful explorers from the Galactic Confederation. We came to study the historical human homeworld. The response came immediately. Historical? We are not history. We are very much alive. Prepare to receive a delegation. Commander, Vectan said nervously. One of their ships is changing course. It's heading directly for us. Through the window, they watched one of the enormous vessels approach. As it got closer, they could see it wasn't solid metal. Parts of it were transparent like crystal. Inside, they could see gardens and buildings and what looked like small cities. It's beautiful, Melkara whispered. The ship stopped beside the bright wing. It was so large that their entire vessel could have fit inside one of its landing bays. A beam of light stretched between the two ships. They're creating an airlock, Melkara reported. The light beam is some kind of force field. We can walk across it. That's impossible technology, Zexai said. Everything about this is impossible, Commander. A figure appeared in the light beam. It was walking toward their ship. As it got closer, Zexai could see it was wearing some kind of suit. But the shape was familiar from the museum pictures. Human. The figure reached their airlock. The outer door opened without anyone touching the controls. The figure stepped inside and the door closed. Air filled the chamber. It's safe, Melkara said, checking her scanners. The air is clean. The inner door opened. The figure removed its helmet. Zexai had seen pictures of humans, but never a real one. She was smaller than he expected. Soft brown skin, black hair tied back, dark eyes. She looked young, but there was something ancient in her gaze. I am Admiral Sarah Chen Okafor, she said in perfect Confederation standard. I represent the human species. You are welcome in our home system. You speak our language, Melkara said, amazed. We have been listening to Confederation communications for thousands of years. We know many languages. Sarah looked around their ship with interest. This is a nice vessel. Threnody design, isn't it? And you must be a quarry, she said to Melkara. How do you know our species? Zexai asked. We know all the species in the Confederation. We've been watching your expansion across the galaxy. Very impressive, but the records say humans died out 50,000 years ago. Sarah smiled. It was a strange expression that humans made when they were happy. Humans are very good at surviving, Commander. When our sun began to die, we didn't run away. We adapted. Adapted how? Come with me. I'll show you. They followed Sarah across the light bridge to her ship. Inside, Zexai was amazed. The corridors were huge and filled with plants. The walls were transparent, showing gardens and parks outside. People walked by, all of them human, but dressed in clothes like nothing he had ever seen. How many people live on this ship? He asked. About 40 billion, Sarah said casually. 40 billion? That's impossible. No ship could hold that many people. Our ships are bigger on the inside than the outside. We learned to fold space many thousands of years ago. They entered a vast chamber with windows looking out into space. Earth was visible in the distance, still frozen and white. Why didn't you help your homeworld? Melkara asked. We couldn't save the surface, Sarah said sadly. But we saved something more important. We saved the planet itself. What do you mean? Sarah pressed a button on the wall. The view outside changed. Now they could see through Earth's crust, down to its core. Instead of molten rock, the center of the planet glowed with strange lights. We converted Earth's core into a massive computer, Sarah explained. The most powerful computer ever built. Our entire civilization has been living inside it for 50,000 years. Living inside a computer? Virtual worlds. Millions of them. While our bodies sleep in special chambers, our minds explore infinite realities. We've experienced millions of years of subjective time. We've learned things that would take other species millions of actual years to discover. Zexai stared at the image of Earth's transformed core. All this time we thought you were dead. We let you think that. We needed time to grow, to learn, to prepare. Prepare for what? Sarah's expression became serious. Something is coming, Commander. Something terrible from outside our galaxy. We've been getting ready for its arrival for 40,000 years. What kind of something? The kind that eats entire galaxies. And it will be here soon. She touched another button. The display showed a map of the galaxy. At the very edge, something dark was spreading inward, consuming star systems. We call them the Void Touched, Sarah said. Machine intelligences from another galaxy. They turn everything into computer matter for their own minds. Planets, stars, entire solar systems. Why didn't you warn the Confederation? Would you have believed us? A species you thought was extinct? Telling you about invisible monsters from outside the galaxy? Zexai had to admit she was right. What do you want from us? Nothing. We want to give you something. A chance to survive what's coming. Sarah led them to another window. Outside, they could see the massive human fleet spreading throughout the Sol system. Hundreds of moon-sized ships, each one a home to billions of people. We're leaving our birthplace, Sarah said. Our long sleep is over. It's time to wake up and help our galactic neighbors survive the storm that's coming. How can you help us? We've had 50,000 years to solve problems that other species can't even imagine. We've learned to manipulate matter at the atomic level. We can move planets. We can hide entire star systems. We can save minds and souls even when bodies die. That's impossible, Sarah smiled again. Commander, your people said it was impossible for humans to survive their son's death. Yet here we are. She looked out at the fleet of impossible ships. We're not the same species that lived on Earth 50,000 years ago. We've grown. We've changed. But we're still human where it matters most. Where is that? In our hearts. We still believe that no one should face the darkness alone. Admiral Sarah Chen Okafor led the three aliens deeper into her ship. The corridors were like nothing they had ever seen. Trees grew from the walls, their branches reaching across the ceiling. Small birds flew freely through the air. The sound of running water came from somewhere nearby. This is impossible, Melkara whispered. How can you have an ecosystem inside a spaceship? We learned to create pocket dimensions, Sarah explained. This ship exists in normal space, but inside we have room for entire continents. We've been building these vessels for 40,000 years. They entered a large room filled with floating displays. Each one showed different parts of the galaxy. Star systems, planets, space stations. Some showed alien cities that Zexai recognized from Confederation worlds. You've been watching us, he said. Watching and learning. We needed to understand how galactic civilization developed while we were sleeping. Sleeping? Sarah gestured to one of the displays. It showed the inside of Earth, but now Zexai could see it clearly. The entire planet was hollow, filled with massive machines and millions of chambers. When we realized we couldn't save Earth's surface, we moved our entire species underground. 50 trillion people in hibernation chambers, their minds connected to the greatest computer ever built. 50 trillion? Vektan gasped. There aren't that many people in the entire Confederation. We had a lot of time to grow our population. In the virtual worlds, time moves differently. We could live entire lifetimes in what you would consider a few hours. Over 50,000 years, we experienced millions of years of subjective time. Melkara stared at the displays. What did you do with all that time? We learned, we grew, we solved problems. Sarah touched one of the floating screens. It showed complex equations that hurt to look at. We figured out the mathematics of consciousness. How to transfer minds between bodies, how to create new forms of matter, how to manipulate time itself. Show us, Zexai said. Sarah smiled. Very well, she raised her hand. The air in front of her began to shimmer. Suddenly, a small star appeared, floating between her fingers. It was perfectly real, burning with nuclear fire but no bigger than a marble. This is a compressed star, she said. All the matter of a normal sun, folded into a space the size of a toy. We could unfold it anywhere and create a new solar system. She closed her hand. The star vanished. Or this, she said, pointing at the wall. The solid metal became transparent. Then it became liquid. Then it turned into flowers that bloomed and grew before their eyes. Matter conversion, Sarah explained. We can change any substance into any other substance. Turn rocks into food. Turn air into solid metal. Turn empty space into whatever we need. By the crystal depths, Zexai whispered. You've become gods. No, Sarah said firmly. We've become what humans were always meant to be. We just needed time to grow into it. She led them to another room. This one was filled with floating platforms, each one holding a different alien. But these aliens weren't moving. They stood perfectly still like statues. Are they dead? Melkara asked. No, they're volunteers from various Confederation species. Scientists, philosophers, artists. We've been inviting them here for thousands of years to study with us. Study what? How to transcend physical limitations while keeping your essential self. Sarah walked to one of the platforms. The alien there was a hegemony warrior, tall and proud even in stillness. This is General Mordak. He came here 3,000 years ago to learn our military secrets. Instead, he learned that the greatest victory is helping others survive. What happened to his body? It's in perfect preservation. But his mind is exploring the virtual worlds, learning things that would take his species millions of years to discover naturally. When he's ready, he can return to his body or choose a new one. Choose a new one. We can build bodies from any pattern. Human, alien, or entirely new designs. The mind is what matters, not the flesh. They continued through the ship. Every room showed new wonders. Gardens that grew in zero gravity. Machines that created food from sunlight. Workshops where humans built impossible devices with their bare hands. How many of these ships do you have? Zexhai asked. This fleet? About 800 ships, but this is just one of many fleets. How many fleets? We have over 2 million ships spread throughout this galaxy and beyond. Each one carries between 10 and 50 billion people. The numbers were too large to understand. Melkara tried to calculate. That's more people than the entire Confederation has ever produced. We've been busy, Sarah said with amusement. They reached the ship's command center. It was a vast dome filled with floating displays showing every star system in the galaxy. Humans moved between the displays, watching and monitoring everything. We've been protecting the galaxy for thousands of years, Sarah explained. Stopping wars before they start. Preventing extinctions. Guiding younger species away from dangerous technologies. Without anyone knowing. The best protection is invisible protection. We've redirected asteroids that would have destroyed planets. We've stopped diseases that would have wiped out entire species. We've prevented dozens of galactic wars. Why? Because that's what humans do. We protect people. One of the displays caught Zexhai's attention. It showed a star system at the edge of the galaxy. The stars were going dark one by one. What's happening there? Sarah's expression became grim. That's why we're waking up. The Void Touched have arrived. She expanded the display. Now they could see the truth. Massive machines were surrounding entire stars, blocking out their light. Planets were being taken apart and rebuilt into geometric structures. They're already here, Sarah said. They've been consuming the outer rim for the past 100 years. But they move slowly. They take time to completely convert each system. How long do we have? At their current rate? 500 years before they reach the core worlds. 1,000 years before they reach Earth. That's a long time. Not for a project this size. We need to evacuate the entire galaxy. Evacuate? Where? Sarah touched another control. The display changed to show something impossible. Other galaxies, distant islands of stars in the cosmic dark. But between them, new structures were being built. Artificial galaxies made from pure energy. We've been building new homes, Sarah said. Pocket universes where entire civilizations can live safely. Each one can hold trillions of people in virtual worlds that are indistinguishable from reality. You want to move everyone out of this galaxy? Everyone who wants to survive. The Void Touched don't negotiate. They don't spare anyone. They convert all matter into computational substrate for their own minds. What about fighting them? We've tried. We sent scout fleets to engage them at the galaxy's edge. The Void Touched are overwhelming. Each of their ships is the size of a planet. They have weapons that can destroy entire star systems, and when they capture our technology, they improve it and use it against us. So we run. We save who we can. And we keep the spirit of galactic civilization alive in new homes. Sarah looked at each of them in turn. This is why we revealed ourselves to you. The Confederation needs to know what's coming. Your people need to choose whether they want to evacuate or try to fight a war they cannot win. Our governments will never agree to abandon the galaxy, Zexhai said. Then we'll save who we can, starting with individuals like yourselves. What do you mean? We're offering you the chance to join us, to learn what we've learned, to help save others. Melkara stepped forward. What would that mean? Your bodies would be preserved in perfect condition. Your minds would join ours in the virtual worlds. You would live for as long as you choose in whatever form you prefer, and you would help us rescue other species from the coming darkness. We would still be ourselves. You would be more yourself than you've ever been. Free from physical limitations, free to explore and learn and grow for eternity. Zexhai looked out at the vast human fleet. Each ship held billions of people who had made this choice, who had chosen to transcend their physical forms while keeping their souls. How do we know you're telling the truth? Sarah smiled sadly. Commander, look around you. We could have conquered the galaxy thousands of years ago. We could have destroyed your ship without effort. We could have forced you to do anything we wanted, but you didn't, because conquest isn't the human way. We offer choice. We offer help. We offer hope. She gestured at the displays showing the approaching darkness. But we won't force anyone to accept our help. The choice is yours. The journey back to Confederation space took 3 weeks. But Zexhai, Melkara, and Vectan were not alone. Admiral Sarah Chen Okafor accompanied them in a small human vessel that looked like a silver teardrop. It moved through space without any visible engines, bending reality around itself. The Confederation Council will want proof, Zexhai said as they approached the capital world of Nexus Prime. They'll have it, Sarah replied. But Commander, you should prepare yourself. Not everyone will react well to learning that humans survived. Why not? This should be good news. For some species, the idea that humans have been watching them for thousands of years will feel like a violation. Others will be angry that we didn't share our technology sooner. As their ships entered the Nexus system, they were immediately surrounded by Confederation patrol vessels. The massive space station at the system's center was home to representatives from all 847 member species. Unknown vessel. Identify yourself, came the radio challenge. This is Commander Zexhai of the survey ship Bright Wing, returning from the Sol system with crucial information for the Council. Commander, you're 3 days overdue. And what is that ship traveling with you? Zexhai looked at Sarah. She nodded. That ship carries a representative of the human species. Long silence on the radio. Then, Commander, please confirm your last transmission. The human species survived. They wish to address the Confederation Council. The patrol ships escorted them to Nexus Prime. Word spread quickly through the station. By the time they docked, crowds of aliens filled the corridors, all wanting to see the impossible sight of a living human. Sarah walked beside Zexhai through the station. She wore simple clothes and carried no weapons. But every alien they passed stopped and stared. Some whispered in fear. Others bowed respectfully. They act like you're a ghost, Melkara observed. To them I am, Sarah replied. Humans have been legends for 50,000 years. Stories parents tell their children. Now the stories are walking among them. The Confederation Council chamber was enormous, with seats for representatives from hundreds of species. Today every seat was filled. In the center stood a podium where speakers addressed the council. Chancellor Vorth, an ancient hegemony leader, called for order. This emergency session will now begin. Commander Zexhai, present your report. Zexhai stood at the podium. Honored Council, we traveled to the Sol system expecting to find ruins and dead worlds. Instead, we found a thriving human civilization that has been secretly protecting our galaxy for thousands of years. Shouts erupted from the council seats. Impossible. Lies. Where's your proof? Sarah walked to the podium. The chamber fell silent. I am Admiral Sarah Chen Okafor of the Human Federation, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. I am 34,000 years old. I speak for 50 trillion humans who have been waiting for this moment. The silence stretched. Finally, Chancellor Vorth spoke. If you are truly human, prove it. Sarah raised her hand. The air above the council chamber shimmered. Suddenly, a perfect hologram of Earth appeared, showing the planet as it was 50,000 years ago. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. This was our home, Sarah said. When our sun began to die, we had a choice. Flee to other stars or transform ourselves to survive. We chose transformation. The hologram changed, showing Earth's interior filled with machines and sleeping chambers. We spent 50,000 years learning, growing, becoming more than we were. But we never forgot our purpose. What purpose? Asked Counselor Melthera, a reptilian saurian. To protect life. To help others survive. To ensure that no species faces extinction alone. The hologram changed again, showing the void touched at the galaxy's edge. Gasps echoed through the chamber as the council members saw the dark machines consuming entire star systems. This is why we reveal ourselves now, Sarah continued. The void touched have arrived. They will consume this entire galaxy unless we act. What do you propose? Chancellor Vorth asked. Evacuation. We have built new homes beyond this galaxy, safe places where all species can survive and grow. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Abandon our worlds? Never. We will fight. Sarah waited for quiet. Fighting them is suicide. We've tried, but we offer an alternative. What alternative? Join us willingly and we will share our technology. Learn our methods of transcendence. Help us save others. And if we refuse, then we save who we can and mourn those we cannot. Counselor Drakmor, a warrior from the Blade World, stood up. You speak of sharing technology. What guarantee do we have that you won't use it to conquer us? None, Sarah said simply. You have only our word and our actions over the past 50,000 years. actions we knew nothing about. Because the best protection is invisible protection. How many wars do you think your species would have fought if you had known humans were watching? How many conflicts were avoided because we quietly resolved them? She gestured, and the hologram showed historical events. Asteroid impacts that mysteriously missed inhabited planets. Diseases that suddenly disappeared. Diplomatic solutions that came at exactly the right moment. We have been gardeners tending galactic civilization from the shadows. But now the garden faces a fire that will consume everything. Why should we trust you? Asked Counselor Vexhai, an insectoid hive mind. Because we are offering you a test. What kind of test? Sarah smiled. We will give 12 volunteers from this council access to our virtual worlds for one local day. They will experience 1,000 years of subjective time learning what we have learned. When they return, they can judge whether humanity is trustworthy. And if the volunteers don't return, then you will know we are monsters and can act accordingly. The council debated for hours. Some species demanded immediate access to human technology. Others wanted to study human science. A few called for military action against the human fleet. Finally, Chancellor Vorth called for order. The council will select 12 volunteers for this test. If they return safely and recommend cooperation, we will consider formal alliance. And if they recommend against it, then humanity will leave Confederation space and never return. Agreed, Sarah said. The volunteers were chosen, representatives from 12 different species, including military leaders, scientists, philosophers, and diplomats. Sarah escorted them to her ship. What will happen to us? Asked General Mordek, the hegemony military representative. You will sleep for one day. Your minds will join ours in the virtual worlds. You will learn what we have learned. You will see what we have seen. And then you will choose. Choose what? Whether humanity deserves your trust. The volunteers were placed in crystalline chambers filled with flowing liquid. Within minutes they were unconscious, their minds transported to the virtual realms where humans had spent 50,000 years growing and learning. Sarah sat with Zexhai in the ship's observation deck, watching Earth turn slowly in the distance. What if they don't believe what they see? He asked. Then they don't. We can't force wisdom, Commander. We can only offer it. And if the Council rejects your help, then we do what humans have always done. We save who we can and keep trying to save the rest. 24 hours later, the volunteers began to wake. One by one, they opened their eyes and sat up in their chambers. Their faces showed wonder, fear, and something deeper, understanding. General Mordek spoke first. I have lived 1,000 years in a single day. I have seen the birth and death of virtual universes. I have watched humans nurture civilizations and guide them to transcendence. And, Zexhai asked, humanity is not perfect, but they are what they claim to be. Protectors, gardeners. The older siblings the galaxy never knew it had. One by one, the other volunteers shared similar experiences. They had seen human virtual worlds where extinct species lived again. They had witnessed the careful guidance humans provided to developing civilizations. They had felt the genuine sorrow humans experienced when they failed to save a species from extinction. What do you recommend to the Council? Sarah asked. The volunteers looked at each other. Finally, Dr. Kithara, a scientist from the Crystal Collective, spoke for them all. We recommend immediate alliance. The void touched are real, the threat is real, and humanity is our only hope of survival. Even knowing that alliance means eventual evacuation from this galaxy, better to live in exile than to die in defiance. When they returned to Nexus Prime, the volunteers reported to the full council. Their testimony was powerful and unanimous. Humanity could be trusted. The threat was real. Alliance was necessary, but not everyone agreed. I don't care what these volunteers claim to have seen, shouted Counselor Drakmore. I will not abandon my homeworld based on visions in a human dream machine. Several other species agreed. They wanted to fight the void touched, not run from them. They demanded human weapons and technology to defend their territories. We will not give weapons to those who plan to use them for conquest, Sarah said firmly. Then you are not truly our allies. The council split into 3 factions. One group wanted full alliance with humanity. Another wanted human military technology for defense. The third wanted humanity to leave Confederation space entirely. This is not how I hoped this would go, Sarah said quietly to Zexhai. People are afraid. Fear makes them angry. The Confederation warships opened fire on Sarah's vessel. Plasma cannons and missile launchers unleashed everything they had at the small human ship. The weapon struck the silver teardrop and simply vanished, absorbed into its hull without leaving a mark. Impressive, Sarah said calmly, watching from the observation deck of Nexus Prime. They're using their most powerful weapons. Aren't you worried about your ship? HFY asked. No. That ship is made from compressed neutron star material wrapped in folded space. Those weapons might as well be throwing rocks at a mountain. The attacking ship stopped firing. Their weapons had no effect at all. The human vessel floated peacefully in space, undamaged. This is Admiral Krath of the Confederation Defense Force, came a radio transmission. Surrender immediately or face the consequences. Sarah picked up a communicator. Admiral Krath, this is Admiral Chen Okafor. I'm willing to talk, but not under threat of violence. You will surrender your technology to the Confederation. No, I will not. What happened next stunned everyone watching. The human ship simply vanished. Not destroyed, not hidden behind a cloaking field. It was there one moment and gone the next. Where did it go? Admiral Krath demanded. Sarah's voice came from empty space. I moved it outside normal space-time. Admiral, you cannot force us to do anything. We are here because we choose to be here. Alarms suddenly rang throughout the station. On the display screens, impossible images appeared. The human ship was now inside Nexus Prime's main hangar bay. It had somehow teleported through solid matter and energy shields. How is that possible? Counselor Vorth gasped. We learned to move through dimensions that your science hasn't discovered yet, Sarah explained. Admiral Krath, please recall your ships. This display of force is pointless. We demand your technology, and I refuse to give weapons to those who would use them for conquest. The standoff continued for hours. More Confederation ships arrived, surrounding the station, but they couldn't do anything to the human vessel. Every weapon they tried was useless. Finally, Sarah made a proposal. I will demonstrate the true threat facing this galaxy. Then you can decide if you want to keep fighting each other or prepare for what's coming. Without waiting for permission, she activated the station's main display system. Every screen in Nexus Prime showed the same image. The edge of the galaxy where the void touched were consuming star systems, but now the images were real-time. The alien machines had advanced much further than anyone realized. Entire sectors were dark. Millions of stars had been extinguished. By the crystal depths, HFY whispered. They're moving faster. They've learned to work more efficiently, Sarah said grimly. Our estimates were wrong. We have maybe 50 years before they reach the core worlds. The council chamber fell silent as representatives watched their galaxy being devoured. The scope of the destruction was beyond imagination. How many people have died? Councillor Melthera asked. Approximately 40 billion so far. Entire species have been wiped out. Why didn't we know about this? Because those regions had no faster-than-light communication with the core worlds. By the time refugees could reach you, their homeworlds were already gone. Sarah changed the display to show refugee ships fleeing the advancing darkness. Millions of vessels packed with survivors desperately trying to reach safety. We've been rescuing who we can, she said, but we can't save everyone without help. What kind of help? Chancellor Vorth asked. Cooperation instead of conquest. Trust instead of suspicion. Working together instead of fighting each other. Admiral Krath's voice came over the radio again. Even if this threat is real, we need your weapons to fight it. Admiral, you cannot fight the void touched with conventional weapons. To prove her point, Sarah showed recordings of human fleets engaging the alien machines. Even with their advanced technology, the humans were losing badly. Ships the size of moons were destroyed by weapons that could crack planets. Then how do we stop them? We don't stop them. We save who we can and preserve civilization elsewhere. You're talking about abandoning the galaxy. I'm talking about survival. The debate raged for days. Some species demanded human weapons. Others wanted to negotiate with the void touched. A few agreed with humanity's evacuation plan. During this time, Sarah quietly began demonstrating human capabilities. She moved entire asteroid belts away from shipping lanes. She repaired damaged planets by restructuring their geology. She created new stars to replace ones that were burning out. She's showing off, Melkera observed. She's showing what's possible, HFY corrected. Look at what she did to Kepler-7. The dead world had been a barren rock for millions of years. Sarah had touched it with her ship's energy beams, and now it bloomed with life. Oceans formed from converted atmospheric gases. Continents rose from restructured minerals. Plants and animals appeared, created from assembled matter. A new world in 3 days, Vecton marveled. She made an entire biosphere from nothing. Other human ships began appearing throughout Confederation space. They didn't threaten anyone or demand anything. They simply helped. Planets damaged by industrial accidents were healed. Species facing extinction were given new habitable worlds. Diseases that had plagued civilizations for millennia were cured overnight. They're not conquerors, Dr. Keithara reported to the council. They're healers. Everything they do helps someone, but not everyone was convinced. Several species formed a secret alliance to capture human technology by force. They called themselves the Survival Coalition. If humanity won't share their power willingly, we'll take it, declared General Thakmore of the Iron Brotherhood. The coalition launched coordinated attacks on human ships throughout the galaxy. Hundreds of warships struck simultaneously, using every weapon in the Confederation arsenal. The results were devastating. For the coalition, human ships simply absorbed the attacks. Then they did something that shocked everyone. Instead of fighting back, they began rescuing coalition crew members whose ships were damaged by their own weapons. "Why are you helping us?" asked a coalition pilot as humans pulled her from her destroyed fighter. "Because that's what we do," replied the human rescue worker. "We save people." Within hours, the coalition's entire fleet was disabled. Not destroyed, but carefully neutralized. Their weapons were turned off. Their engines were shut down. Their crews were safely evacuated. "This is your mercy?" General Thakmore demanded when he was brought aboard a human ship. "This is our nature," Sarah replied. "We could have destroyed your entire fleet without effort. Instead, we saved your people and gave them new homes." She gestured to the ship around them. "Everyone who attacked us is welcome to stay. Learn what we've learned. Help us save others." Some coalition members accepted the offer. Others demanded to be returned to their homeworlds. The humans accommodated both choices without complaint. "You're making us look like fools," General Thakmore said. "No, General. You're making yourselves look like people who need help, and we help people." The failed coalition attack changed everything. The galaxy saw that humans could not be conquered or forced. They could only be accepted or rejected. More species began joining the human evacuation program. Entire planets volunteered to have their populations transferred to safe pocket dimensions. Scientists worked with humans to build new technologies for saving civilizations. But time was running out. The void touched had consumed half the galaxy. Their massive machines were converting entire star clusters into computational substrate. Refugee fleets filled space, fleeing the advancing darkness. "We need to accelerate the evacuation," Sarah told the emergency council session. "Current estimates show we can save maybe 60% of galactic civilization." "What about the other 40%? Chancellor Vorth asked. "We keep trying to save them until the very last moment." Sarah activated a new display showing the human evacuation plan. Massive ships were being built in hidden locations throughout the galaxy. Each one could hold trillions of people in virtual worlds. "We're calling them ARC ships," she explained. "Each one contains entire pocket universes where civilizations can live and grow safely." "How many people can you save?" "As many as choose to be saved. But we need help building the ARCs. Every species that joins us increases our capacity." The council voted, not unanimously but by a clear majority. The Confederation would officially cooperate with humanity's evacuation plan. Over the following months, the greatest construction project in galactic history began. Humans worked alongside aliens to build the ARC ships. Technologies were shared freely. Entire worlds became factories for salvation. As the void touch drew closer, more species abandoned their resistance. The sight of consumed star systems was too terrible to ignore. Even the most stubborn civilizations began requesting evacuation. "How long until Earth itself is threatened?" Zexai asked during one of his regular visits to Sarah's ship. "About 5 years. We'll be among the last to leave." "Why?" "Because Earth is more than our homeworld. It's become the control center for the entire evacuation. We can't leave until everyone else is safe. What will happen to it?" Sarah looked out at her transformed homeworld. The frozen surface still showed the ruins of ancient human cities. But deep inside, the planetary computer continued its work, coordinating the salvation of galactic civilization.